Hello, fellow game collectors. I've got a video here on a really cool topic, and that's pirated cartridges for Super Nintendo. Now, this is something that I didn't think I'd ever run into, but I ordered a game off of half.com, and it turns out that the game is pirated. Now, this is kind of weird because where you might see a lot of pirated CDs, because CDs are something that's a little bit easier to manufacture since they're done in such bulk. Cartridges you don't see so often. So here I have a pirated copy of TMNT Tournament Fighters, and for the keen eye, you can already tell it's pirated, or you at least have some cues just by looking at this picture. And then I have a normal Illusion of Gaia here. So let's go through some of the things that you might see if it's pirated. There are some red flags and then some smoking guns, and we'll go ahead and cover some of the red flags first. First of all, you can see here, this, if you know the cover art for Tournament Fighters, this is not the cover art for Tournament Fighters. I think there's actually a shark guy on there or something, but you can tell, I think this is actually the art from the Nintendo version, the NES version, and what they've done is they've photoshopped it in here and made this label, and unfortunately they used a low-res version, so they blew it up really big. Now, when I first saw this label, I immediately thought, oh no, this might be a pirated copy. And then I thought, you know, that's not necessarily true, because it isn't necessarily true. A new label doesn't necessarily mean pirated copy. It can just mean that somebody damaged the label and they replaced it. What was interesting about this label is that though the texture is kind of close, you can see the shimmer here. I might have some focus problems in this video. You can see the shimmer there, and then compare it to the shimmer of this one. So it's similar. The non-camera view, you can tell the difference, but immediately when I first saw it on its own, I didn't notice a difference. So that was kind of cool that they used a pretty good printer paper for it. One of the things they missed, however, was the labeling on the top. They never even put any on there at all whatsoever. Not only that, for using such a high quality sticker, they actually didn't catch the label quite right here either. So it was put on a little bit shoddy, or at least was cut a little bit shoddy. Passable nonetheless. I mean, if someone had actually taken the time to get the real cover art here, use a high resolution, it might have been a passable job. They might have actually gotten away with it and put the title of the game up top. You can also tell on the label, sorry for the blurry camera there, look at the Super Nintendo emblem. You can see here it's nice at the bottom. Here it's stretched up to the top, but also just way blurrier. Let's see if I can get a shot of those labels. You can kind of see it's a little bit blurry, but you can see the bottom one, it actually is a lot better, a lot cleaner overall. So the label is junk. You can tell the label is aftermarket, but that doesn't necessarily mean pirated. The next thing you can look at is the case. So this particular case, one of the things you can't see in this video is that it shimmers a little bit funny. And that was like the second thing I think I saw right off the bat, was that it looks kind of like soap. Now you can't really see in this lighting because the light's very, very bright here. It kind of takes away that shimmer, but you can see the grays are a little bit off. This one has a little bit more of a brown gray, and this one's a little bit more of a blue gray. That's because the plastic that's being used for this particular cartridge is a little bit off. Another thing you'll notice, you'll see multiple manufacturing flaws in the case. And I should also add, as I'm talking about the case and talking about pirated copies, the case doesn't necessarily mean pirated copy, because the game in itself, the legitimate piece of it, is the chip inside. So we're going to take a look at that in a second, but the case, you can usually tell if it's fraudulent. You'll have manufacturing error here on the side. Let's see if I can get that far enough away from the light. You can see how there's a shadow there? That's because it doesn't line up. You can see on the other side too, it doesn't line up there. There's a little bit of an edge. Now look at the legitimate copy here. No edge. You can see there's some discoloration with this. That's another thing too. The original cartridges, they discolor. This cartridge that I have that's a knockoff, no discoloration. But you see how that edge is nice and clean, lines up completely? That's because it wasn't manufactured the same way as this one, so it lines up perfectly. Also at the bottom, you can see here, possibly, look at the fake cartridge on the top. You see this little snap point here? That's because it was poured into a mold and then snapped off in bulk. It's to be made in bulk so they can make them very cheaply, whereas these ones aren't made in the same plates. I think they're made individually, molded individually, and then popped out so they don't have those same lines. Now on the back, which this poor guy here that left all his contact information, I'm unfortunately not going to blur it out for him. He wrote it on the cartridge. It's his to own. A normal cartridge, you see the sticker's not on the pirated one. In fact, it's completely flat. Now on the later cartridges for the Super Nintendo, it was actually a plastic, and I want to say embroidery, wrong word. But anyways, it was bumpy here, and all the Nintendo stuff came out. They used stickers in the beginning. I'm pretty sure they used bumpiness towards the end. But you can see the stickers here. They start to wear off. This is legit. This is not legit. There's no sticker. There's no nothing. There's no sticker residue. Again, though, the sticker could have been here and then just peeled off. So not a smoking gun completely, although that does kind of point towards fraudulent cartridge. Now, the final thing I want to point out about the casing is if you look at the Nintendo emblem, on the left-hand side, you see nice and sharp and gives nice shadows and everything. And even the Nintendo, like nice detail there. And then over here, it's indented a little bit and the Nintendo's kind of faded looking. That's because this was made from a press that was probably made, or mold that was probably made from an original cartridge. So when you copy a copy, you end up with less detail. So the final thing about the fake cartridge is that there's no screws. If you look, when I got this, it had no screws. Now, the legitimate copies here, they have these cool little screws. The non-legitimate copy here did not have screws. So this thing had just about everything that could possibly go wrong for it is wrong with it on this particular one. But until we open it up, we do not have a smoking gun. So let's go ahead and open these up. For the legitimate copy, I'm going to need this little bit here. You can pick these up on Amazon or eBay for about $5. You usually get them in sets of 2, so you can get one for your consoles and you can get one for your cartridges. You open up the legitimate copy. Takes a little bit of work. Just get those screws off. And then once they're off, it opens up nice and easy. You can see the chip inside. So we'll leave that there. We'll go ahead and pry this monstrosity apart. This one just is held on by some clips here on the side. And I didn't open it up when I first got it right away, but then I decided, you know what, this is probably a pirated copy. I'm going to do it off camera. There we go. Once I got it close to me, it pried apart. You can see, same game, same game. Okay, so this chip being so low profile here, very suspicious. This chip not being so low profile, less suspicious. However, I do believe there are some chips that are this low profile in here, so not a smoking gun yet. Now, when you look at these, a lot of these legitimate chips, at least every one that I've seen, we'll go that way, we'll go that far. Every single one of these chips that I've seen has Nintendo on here somewhere. And you can see, I'm not sure if the camera can make that out. It does say Nintendo right here. This is the legitimate copy of, see if I can get it. Come on, camera. You can see it says 1993. There, maybe, a little shiny. It's actually in gold lettering here, Nintendo. That's because Nintendo was the manufacturer of these PCBs. That's the board piece of this. Also, you have all these little chips here. This looks right. This looks like it was made by Nintendo. Here, there is no Nintendo. Now, 2 smoking guns on this board. There are 2 reasons to think that this is a pirated copy. The first is, this is a Glop top chip. Now, these black things here, when I first opened this up, I had no idea what this was. I had to go look this up on the internet because I had not seen that. I'm not a electronic engineer so much, or even a hardware engineer. I'm more of a software database guy. So not my expertise, but I learned about these, and I also learned that no Super Nintendo game should have them except for, I think it's early versions of Starfox. So if you open your Starfox game up and you see 6 or so of these bad boys, legitimate copy. If you see it on anything else, highly suspect that this is pirated. I would say that's pretty much a smoking gun. And look it up online to see if any other ones have Glop tops. I don't think they do. From my research, none except for Starfox. Smoking gun, let's call that right there, pirated game. The second part is this chip here, and this is the ROM chip. Now, you can buy these in bulk from places like, I think it's Alibaba online. You can get these chips in bulk. You can flash the games onto them, and then you put them on these PCB boards. A lot of times what people do is they use old PCBs from existing games. They pull the chips out, they put new ones on, and you can reproduce games that way. Chinese manufacturers also, I'm assuming Chinese, I don't necessarily know that. They also manufacture things in bulk as pirated copies. So the way you can find out if this is a reflashed version or not, on the original versions, there are numbers here on the chip. Take those serial numbers, throw them into Google. If you throw those serial numbers into Google and nothing comes back, that means they are original numbers and they belong specifically on those chips, specifically for that game. If you throw these numbers in and you get a million responses, like I did here, where I could buy this chip all day, today, if I wanted to. I could buy as many as I want from Alibaba. They were on eBay. They were all over the place. I can find this chip for sale for myself. That means that this is a pirated copy. So look out for those chips, look out for these Glop tops, look out for low profile cards, look out for shoddy cases, look out for bad produced emblems and shoddy manufacturing, look out for bad labels. If you get a combination of these things, I would go ahead and raise a red flag and call it a pirated game. For my case here, this thing had just about every sign of piracy possible, and this one's going to go back to the seller because I'm ruling this most definitely a pirated copy. From everything I've learned, this had every symptom of a pirated copy of the game. So I hope you learned something here. I hope you don't ever have to deal with this, but be on the lookout. Watch those auctions and watch those online deals before you hit buy. It's always nice to see the cartridge, but when you get a surprise like this, just know that you can tell the seller that it's a pirated copy and hopefully reverse the transaction if possible. Until next time, this has been Pixel Freak.